The opinions expressed on this program are those of the host and guest and are not necessarily those of WPSL or WSTU. This station does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without the express permission and written consent of this station. Phone lines are open for your questions and comments. Call 220-9788 or 340-1590. And now, here's your host.
And you're listening to the Treasure Coast Car Guys here on WPSL and WSTU. In the studio with Steve Friend. Welcome back.
Well, good morning. How are you?
I'm great, and Gary's here too.
Good morning. Hey, Gary. Hey, Steve. Welcome back. So before we get into any topics, I thought it would be appropriate to ask a question. And that would be, what is 471 horsepower, 5.0 liter V8, and 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds?
I think I know the answer to that.
Okay.
It's the new Lexus.
That's correct. It's the new LC500, which we're going to talk extensively about. But let's be thinking about that before we get into it. So a couple of highlights that we'd like to share with the listeners. Very, very interesting month last month in the automobile business nationally and also regionally and in our area on the Treasure Coast. The SARS, which is it's called SARS, which is the national terminology for how many new cars were sold or expected to be sold, turned out to be just under 17 million, which would be averaged out for the year. So at 16.9 million, which is a little bit off of the all-time best of 17.4 million.
But that number seems like a lot of cars.
Well, let me tell you, it is a lot of cars. And, of course, the naysayers out there say, oh, my God, our business is turning. Can you believe it? We went from 17 to 16.9. Well, I'm here to say that the car business is extremely healthy. 16.9 million cars is an awful lot of cars to sell. And we're thrilled that it is maintaining those levels right now, and that's what it's expected to maintain.
Now, last year was like a record year, right?
Last year, at 17.4 million new cars, was an all-time best ever.
Okay, so now are they comparing this year to last year? Because that's really not fair.
Well, the object is, in our business, and
to always go up.
Any other business, you always want to go up.
Yes.
You know, it's so funny. In fixed operations, which for those people, listeners who don't know what that term means, that means it's service, parts, and body shop, and versus the new and pre-owned sales. And the point being is, I lost my track, Gary.
You did. No, that's my forte. Fixed operations.
But I know what I wanted to say. So in fixed operations, it's always been, in all the years of managing car dealerships, is that they compare it to the same month the previous year. Whereas in auto sales, even though we're cognizant of what it was a year ago for the same month, we always want to do better every month. So I always tell Gary when we have our kickoff meetings in the beginning of the month, well, forget what you did last year and everything. Let's just, if you had a best ever last month, don't worry about last year. Let's have another best ever, and keep going like that. And I assume that all your big companies always think like that anyway. But with a slight dip of a couple 100,000 cars maybe over the entire country, it's really, it's negligible. So it's all according to how you look at it. Now, the great part of it is, on the Treasure Coast, there were some pretty cool successes, not everywhere, but our Toyota store, once again, 156.2% of their new car objective.
Wonderful.
So from what I understand, that was an all-time best for the dealership with that number for the month of April, historically, since the dealership's been open. And they continue to do just exemplary numbers. And I do believe that the 156.2% was the leading percent of attainment in entire Southeast Toyota. And that's 176 dealerships.
That's great.
So that's a pretty good bar to be compared against. So we couldn't be more proud of Amber doing a great, great job. And it was really fun to watch the store continue to grow. Moving on to the Lexus dealership, we were at 116% of our new car objective. Now, the Lexus store, it doesn't have the same volume as a Toyota store. We don't see as many clients as a Toyota store. But then again, to accomplish 116%, I'd like to thank our clients who participated in getting us there, and all of our sales associates, our service teams, and the entire management team for being supportive and doing everything they possibly can to make it a world-class experience for our clients.
That's what we do.
So thank you, thank you, thank you. Certified cars for the entire month of April, just under 235,000 certified cars were sold throughout the United States. That was up. They claim that it's up modestly, okay, just a small percentage. But I will tell you that our CPO business in both stores continues to grow. And it's no wonder, especially in a Lexus store, because we have absolutely the best pre-owned warranty that you can possibly get out of any car sold. So we are continuing to see increases in that venue as well. Interesting statistic that came out this past month is about millennials. Now, we know in most businesses in the retail...
It's those kids that live in the basement.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Or they live in your room and you live in the basement.
Yeah.
well, they must be doing something right, because 7 out of 10 of the millennials are exploring the luxury brand automobiles. 7 out
Okay,
of
so
10.
they're doing a little better than I thought, huh?
So don't be fooled by the ones that are living in mom and dad's
My basement.
Okay, you know, it's so funny because the media highlights that. Of course, there are things are changing in that demographics, especially, and we're finding that more millennials. First of all, they buy their cars differently than most people. They look at things differently. They're so digitally connected that really everything is done through texting and whatever. It's not uncommon for that group of people to be buying cars.
Now
with just
remember,
text
gummy
messages.
vitamins were created for them.
That's right.
Is that a fact?
Yeah. You
Think,
know that?
think about gummy vitamins.
They've been around for quite a long time now.
No, not really.
No?
No, but try to buy some regular ones for us old folks.
Oh, you know something? I'm thinking when my kids were very young, they were Flintstone vitamins.
Yes, and
Yeah.
chalks. Remember chalks? That
Yeah.
goes way back.
Yeah.
And now they're gummies. But they're
Okay.
adult vitamins the adult vitamins are gummies because the adults are like kids.
We are like kids, and we want to be like kids all the time. So anyway, we're excited because the millennials, if you look at it, 7 out of 10 have interest in new or pre-owned luxury cars. So that's very, very encouraging because that is going to be the next big segment.
Well, that you know what? It makes common sense though too. They're actually being very intelligent about that choice because you're getting a car that's going to last. You're probably going to get a fairly low mileage car if it's certified,
Sure.
and
They don't break.
you didn't take that depreciation from buying the new car.
Well, it's 7 out of 10 also as far as new nameplates as well. So they are in the car market and they are shopping, and they're looking at, we're looking at a whole different group of people that do things very differently than what most dealerships are used to doing.
Okay.
And it's not just, it's really interesting because, okay, we're Treasure Coast car guys, but consider this for a minute. The whole era of retailing in general is changing so dramatically right now. When we see, look at all the store closures, okay? Who would think that a store like Macy's would shutter 100-plus stores, where there's talk about closing the biggest Macy's store in the world, which is in New York City?
Right.
So when you start to hear things like that, and then the flip side of it, you hear about how Amazon is doing things to be able to drop your packages with drones, it makes you wonder, wow, things are really, really changing.
Yeah, you can get your ketchup delivered to the door.
You know,
I
it's
mean,
interesting.
everything you need.
Last week, we needed to replace a pool filter and air conditioning, not air conditioning, but the refrigerator water filters.
Okay.
And all I did was go online just to research to see, is there a different brand? Should I try something different? And it automatically brought me over to Amazon. And the next thing that I knew, I was price shopping. I read the reviews, and I clicked twice. And 2 days later, the refrigerator filters arrived at my door along with the pool filter.
And you didn't have to drive to the big box store, search in the store for it yourself
I didn't
to
have to get
find
out-
that they're out of the one that you need.
I didn't have to get out of my
that's what
I didn't have
happens.
to get out of my pajamas.
Yeah.
And it was the
Yeah.
easiest thing.
And I'm sure the price was comparable.
Extremely
Yes.
competitive.
So,
extremely competitive. So, life is changing. It truly is. Another couple of incidental things. We said 16.9 million versus 17.4. Lexus sold in the southern area, in national results, they sold just under 22,000 new Lexuses. And for the southern area, very, very interesting, we sold just under 7,500 Lexuses for the 5-state area, which is an awful lot of cars. And the NX is the best ever April. Our volume was up 13.2% nationally. Now, that is a brand new vehicle that's been out since 2015. And we talked many, many times about the trend from going to four-door sedans over to these sport utilities. And the NX and the RX continue to be sizzling hot. And we get them, we turn them. We get them, we turn them. And it's like that nationally. So these are two great sport utilities that people just can't get enough of. So it's really quite interesting. But before we get to the meat and potatoes, talking about service and talking about the LCs, just want to go over a couple of highlights for both Lexus and Toyota with some of the specials that people can expect to get for the entire month of May. And May is usually one of the best car selling months of the year. So if you are thinking, this is the time to take action because inventories go very, very quickly on these hot models. So the car that is really an unbelievable value for Lexus, and this is probably the best deal that you could possibly get anywhere, is a 2017 CT200H. That is our hatchback hybrid that gets 42 miles to the gallon, and you can come into our dealership without a dollar down and drive out for $319 a month plus tax.
That's great payment.
That's
and no money down. Wow.
Yeah, that's a $30,000+ car, and people say, well, that's an entry-level Lexus. Well, it has all the accoutrements and the features.
It's probably a whole lot better than what you're driving now, though, right?
I will tell you that payment is the equivalent of second-tier cars, whether it's, and that's not to say anything negative about any of the cars being sold out there, but you can go and get a mainstream type car, whether it be a Chevy, a Ford, a Kia, a Hyundai, Toyota, and they're 300+ with money down. This car is a true zero down, not $1 is required, and you can drive home for $319 a month. And that's a 36-month lease. And interestingly enough, it's not a super low mileage lease like most advertisements. This is 10,000 miles a year, which is really slightly above what the average mileage is driven on the Treasure Coast. So anybody who's looking for a car that is gas competent, we'll call it, at 42 miles to the gallon, that wants to do something environmentally friendly and drive a hybrid, you couldn't possibly get a better car for the money. It's just not out there. The next special that we have running for the entire month, with a small amount of money down, is an IS200T, which is the four-door sports sedan, and that's $309 a month plus tax. Or if you don't choose to put any money down, it's $409 a month, which is also a great value. We move up to the ES350, which is our best-selling four-door sedan. It's full size, and that car starts at $329 a month with a small down payment, or with no money down, it could be $449 a month. The RC200T, which is the Sport Coupe, the new car that was introduced in 2015, is $399 a month with a small down payment, or it's $529 a month. Now, $529 a month, believe it or not, is an average car payment.
Sure.
And you could be driving for an average car payment an amazing two-door
Much more
sedan
than average car.
with a great warranty, with great gas mileage, and with great amenities, with pickup and delivery, and great service department to take care of all your needs. So it's really an incredible value. Now the NX, which we just mentioned, which the sales are just through the roof, $319 a month for a brand new NX for an essential built car with equipment. With a small down payment, or you can drive it for right around $400 a month with no money out of pocket. The RX350, which is our best seller, was interesting. 65% of everything we sold last month was an RX350 or a variation of the RX. And there are a couple different models. There's a sport model and there's a hybrid model. So 65% of what we sold was the RX. And it stands to reason because 27% of all luxury sport utilities are RXs nationally. So this car has an amazing $419 a month with $1,999 down, which is, you're going to put that down on any car. Or if you choose to go with no money out of pocket, it's $489 a month. And last but not least, the GX 460, which is a full-size 7-passenger big-size sport utility. It's $499 a month with a down payment, or it's $639 a month with no down payment. And that's a car that's in the $58,000 range. So these are unbelievable leases. They're all 36-month leases, and they're 10,000 miles. And we have a great inventory over at the Lexus store. And we just want to be able to assist you, teach you about the cars, and show you what we got. And hopefully we'll do our job right, and that you'll be able to pick one of those cars.
Well, they're beautiful, and the quality is second to none, really.
It's unparalleled.
So
really.
With those prices, if you're in the market for a car,
It makes you wonder, why would anybody buy anything
Yeah.
other than that when you see payments like that? So now, very interesting, we'll move on to Toyota right now, which Amber provided me with these special incentives. So on the 2017 Toyota Corolla, you can finance that car with approved credit up to 72 months for 0% financing. So when you think about that, your options are you can lease it for 3 years or have an equivalent payment with no money out of pocket for your 6-year financing with 0% financing.
no, I come in with a trade, and I have an even better deal.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And let me say something about coming in with a trade. Both of our dealerships need trade-ins desperately. We are going to put more money in the car than you thought possible. And we need cars that, see, what's happened in the used car business right now is that a lot of people have held the cars for 12, 13, 14, 15 years and really have basically utilized the whole life of the car. So those cars end up going, wholesaled and whatever. But there is a shortage of very low mileage, clean, pre-owned cars. And we take a lot of those in on the Treasure Coast, so we're in a position to offer more. And we need them desperately. And if it's an extra special low mileage car with service records and a clean Carfax, we're going to pay all the money for the car because we just can't find cars like that. And that's what both of our stores like to sell. So moving along, there's 2017 IM, which is the small economy model, and that car also has 1.9 financing up to 72 months, and up to 60 months it's 0%. So, but the mainstream cars, the 2017 Camry right now is 72 months financing at 0%. So we hear all the time with the economic reports that the rates are going to move up, and I think we had 2 movements already, and they expect another 1 or 2 moves for this year. So rates are definitely on the upswing, although Toyota is doing everything they can to keep those rates at a 0% or a 0.9 or 1.9 rate. Incidentally, I forgot to mention on the CT200H Lexus, the interest rate for 60 months is 0% if you choose to finance it. That is a first. It has never, ever been that inexpensive, okay, to drive that kind of a car.
That's great.
Yeah. So, and it being a hybrid as well. The new Prius, okay, the Prius liftback also has 1.9% financing for 60 months. The Prius V, and that's a car that I learned a lot about because in flying and going to major metropolitan airports, when you're waiting for a taxi cab, when you get on the line and you're waiting for the cab when you get off the plane, they have Prius Vs lined up like crazy, 50 in a row. It's a great car, like 45 miles to the gallon. It fit a full-size family and it has enough room for luggage. So great, great car. The Avalon, which is Toyota's luxury model, has 1.9% up to 60 months. And the RAV4, which is the 7th best selling automobile in the United States. The RAV4.
Well, they are everywhere.
Yes, they are. And
I notice cars at the traffic light.
I'm sure.
I notice everybody's cars. They're everywhere.
They are. And that car right now is 0% for 72 months. It's really pretty unbelievable. And also the RAV4 Hybrid, which is a new model. That car, it's not quite 0% financing, but they do offer 2.9% financing up to 60 months. The Highlander, one of the best-selling sport utilities out there, also has subvented rate financing, 1.9 for 60 months. It's very, very competitive leases. The 4Runner also has low-rate financing, 2.9 for 60 months. The Sienna van, which is rated one of the best passenger vans, the mom vans, mini mom vans, 0.9% financing for 72 months. And of course, we have the Tundra, our full-size pickup truck, which also has very, very low financing, 2.9% for 72 and 1.9 for 60. So there are tremendous, compelling reasons for people to come out in the marketplace and to update or upgrade their vehicles. So
And selection. I mean, I know that there's selection at the Toyota dealership
Toyota store,
because
we
there's lots of cars
we have
to pick
hundreds
from.
and hundreds of cars, and if we don't have what you want, number one, we will locate it, and if it's not something that's available immediately, we're able to go to port operations and get one of the next available ones that will be coming in into the port. So if Toyota builds it or if Lexus builds it, we have the
You can get
capability
it.
to be able to get it.
Wow.
So don't ever be dissuaded because you don't see it on the
Yes.
lot.
You don't have a red one, right?
And what's interesting is that a lot of people do all their shopping online, and sometimes you might not see that vehicle. So please make that inquiry, because just because it doesn't show online in our inventory at that time doesn't mean that it's not a day away.
I'm partial to retail red.
Okay, retail red, like the traffic ticket red.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. So we're going to sidestep for a couple of minutes, and we're going to talk about Gary's favorite thing, service. And what we've realized and witnessed this season, which has been like no other season, is a tremendous uptick in service. So maintenance, repair, as well as taking care of a lot of the recall cars. So I'm going to let Gary talk about that for a minute. But Gary, let's first talk about some of the things that you would strongly recommend going into the summer season, as far as taking care of their cars and making sure that they're properly prepared for the, for the warmer weather and tires and what have you.
Right, summer months, especially
Yes.
especially down here in Florida. A lot of things that you need to take a look at on your automobiles. The basic things: brakes, tires, and batteries. Heat. A lot of people don't know this, but heat hurts batteries way more than cold weather does. So we do our fair share of replacing batteries down here. The batteries that we replace in our Lexus cars are 84-month batteries.
As a matter of fact, I saw your advertising in the showroom, special
Yes.
84-month
Yes,
warranties.
yes, that's correct. Tires are really important.
Can we go back to batteries for a second? I'd like to ask you a question.
Sure.
I noticed, this happened to me several years ago. My wife had an ES350, and this was going back in time. And at that time, we had bought that car. We didn't lease it. And the car was about 2.5, 3 years old. And there was no sign of anything wrong with the battery at all. And I remember I went to a meeting, and I came out of the meeting, and I turned the car, and it was completely dead. Is that characteristic of batteries down here in the Florida market, where sometimes you don't get a warning?
It is. When you bring your car into our service department, we test the batteries every single time you come in the door. There's a lot of different measurements that go on with battery testing.
Now, that's part of the multi-point inspection.
Part of the
that's
multi-point
complimentary.
inspection is complimentary, and we do it every time, every car. Batteries have what they call cold cranking amps. They've got their state of health and the state of charge. So your state of charge could be high, but your state of health could be low, and that's when your battery will leave you.
Without a warning sometimes.
Without a warning sometimes, yeah. So we measure 3 or 4 different specific measurements with the battery, and we give you a printout with it. And if the state of health is low on the battery, then we recommend it. These are maintenance-free batteries as well, so it's not like the old days when you screwed the caps off, you had to pour water or something in them. So.
I actually remember that as a kid, doing that with my dad. I
Yeah.
happen to remember that. Fond memories.
Yeah, and then you wipe your fingers on, you put them in your blue jeans, and you get a hole in your
Hole.
blue jeans. Yeah,
That was okay. That's the way we wore them then.
yeah, exactly.
And now they're $400 a pair like
And they
that.
put the holes in on purpose.
Yeah, they do, and you pay extra for that.
Exactly.
But the batteries, you got to keep the batteries, the tops of the batteries clean, because actually if you've got grease or dirt on top of your battery, that robs voltage from the post. You've got to keep your terminals clean. Every service, when you come into our dealership, the service that we do on the car is we put battery pads on the car. It keeps the corrosion and stuff. If you've got batteries will leak acid at some point in time in their life, and that acid leaks out of the post. So when you open up the hood of a car and you look at a battery post, you see all this green yucky stuff in there. That's actually battery acid and stuff that started to ooze out of the battery.
And sometimes you have to take a second look, because not all batteries now have the posts on top.
No, they don't. And most of the batteries now have covers on them too. So, we lift the covers up and look. But we do put the battery post cleaners on there, so it keeps that acid from destroying the battery cables, because the acid will wick down into the cable, and then you're looking at a battery replacement and battery cables and things of that nature.
It's interesting because most people really don't think. I mean, you get in a car, you turn the key. Actually, nobody turns a key anymore. You push the button, and the car starts, and you don't think about it. But interestingly enough, both our dealerships, we do complimentary multi-point inspections where we go through a gamut of inspections. And the thing about the battery inspection, which is really neat, is that we have these, I guess they're like mini computers that connect to it, and it prints out the whole health of the battery. Because I was having a battery issue with one of my cars recently,
Right.
and they printed out the whole.
Yours was the state of charge was good, but the state of health was bad.
Right.
So that was getting ready to leave you somewhere.
So is that like it would take the charge, but it wouldn't hold it?
Yes, basically. A state of health would be like the plates in the battery, they're solidifying, or you got a bad cell. The voltage in the battery you should maintain at least well above 12 volts in the battery when you test them. So your battery voltage could be good, the state of charge should be good, but the state of health is low, then the battery's getting ready to leave you someplace.
How does that translate to the gauge inside the car? I mean, should we know
Funny
how
you say,
that works?
Because with that particular incident, I remember I drove down to Coral Springs with the car, and the whole time I was driving, it was like 13.2 volts, which is normal territory. But when I got out of the car and I ran in for something and I came back out, I went to start the car. You know, when you go to press the button or turn the key, and it's very, very slow to crank, and I saw the gauge going down. So
Yeah, that's
that was a sign of it.
basically generator alternator voltage that gauge is reading, and then the car is running. Even if you've got a dead battery in the car, if the car is running and the alternator is functioning properly, that gauge is going to read that it's got an
So
excess of
it's
12,
almost
13.
misleading when you're looking at it because you
It
can't
can
tell.
be. It can
you know?
be. Yeah. So that's why we have these sophisticated pieces of equipment that measure all these things.
I have one more question, Gary. On the 84-month Lexus warranties, that's a prorated warranty?
Well, first 2 years is free replacement, and then after that it's 50%. So
Okay, at any time from the third to the
at any
seventh year?
time from excuse me, yes, at any time from the third to 84 months.
Excellent.
Now here in Florida, do we get 84 months out of that battery? Or
Never.
Okay, that's what I was
Never.
thinking. Kind of like your roof.
Yeah, kind of like your roof.
Kind of like your roof.
Yeah, I don't know why the heat takes such a toll on batteries here, but we replace a lot of batteries in the store because we check them all the time. The worst thing that could happen is a client comes into the dealership and gets a service done on their car, maintenance or whatever they're in there for, and then the next day they go out and their car won't start. And they're on the phone to me going, I was just in there, and you guys
Well, what
never
it does
told me."
is you lose.
Do they
the
say,
whole-
what did you do to my
Yeah.
car?
Yeah,
Right.
they say that too.
Yeah.
But we try to make sure that people are safe most of all, because you just don't want your mother or your wife or
Anybody for
grandmother
that
or
matter.
anybody.
Now,
for that
being
matter,
stranded is like,
stranded.
and stranded because of your car is one of
Yeah.
the most annoying things
And
that
it's
could happen to you.
And it's dangerous too. So yeah, we try to do that. Along with that, belts and hoses. Those are little minor things that will leave you stranded as well. So in the summertime, you want to make sure that you check those, make sure they're functioning properly. Your air conditioning system, we like to check that. Your cabin filter is an important thing as well as the air filter.
Why is the cabin filter important, Gary?
The cabin filters in the cars, they filter the air that's coming from the outside into the cabin. And if you pull a cabin filter out of a car, it's got, boy, there's so much stuff in there. There's leaves in there, there's dust, we find bits and pieces of tree limbs and all kinds of stuff in there.
So really, it stands to reason, by analogy, your air conditioning in your house, every 30 days you're going to change the filter.
Yes.
I know I just did mine, and I took the filter out. I have it set on my iPhone, actually.
Okay.
So I know every 30
Reminder.
days. Exactly, because I wouldn't remember it on my own anymore. So I have it set, and I took it out, and it was just filthy. And it's interesting because when I bring my car in, which is often because I drive a lot of miles, and the service writers tell me, you need a cabin filter, I'm putting it in because I'm breathing that air.
Yeah.
So, some people don't really pay much attention to it and say, well, I'll do it, but I don't need to do it right now. Would you go 6 months or a year with the same air conditioning filter in your home?
Yeah, no.
And it's not an expensive
And you're
item.
starving your air conditioning to, it works harder. So
Well, especially down here in Florida where you're using your air conditioning 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
There's not any time that you don't have your air conditioner on down here. When we change the cabin filters in these cars, we like to do what's called an AC refresh. It deodorizes and there's bacteria and stuff that builds up, and because the air conditioner is always on and it's moisture and stuff.
and that's when your car starts to smell like a gym locker.
It will smell like a gym locker. So we chemically induce
And they have a
something
commercial to take care of that too.
into the air conditioning system that kills all of that bacteria and stuff, and especially people with allergies. And in Florida, allergies are big, so you want to make sure that those things are taken care of. Tires are very important, especially in the summertime, because the roads get greasy. People don't feel them or anything like that. It's just like a NASCAR track. They're always talking about, the track temperature versus the air temperature and stuff. Well, the roads are, 15, 20, sometimes 30 degrees hotter than the actual ambient temperature of the air, and the roads, they get greasy. If you've got bad tires on your car or marginal tires on your car, the car's not going to handle properly, and it takes longer to stop. And also, if you live down here, you know that we get torrential rains. Then you start dealing with hydroplaning. The technology of the tires today pushes water away from the tread and the road, so you get tread contact on the road, so your car doesn't slip and slide all over the place.
So with a worn tire, it's not going to channel that excess water away, so you're subject to not being able to stop or turn.
Exactly. Yeah, if you go on our website, we have a stopping thing on there for tires, worn tires, what the stopping distances are for tires that are brand new, tires that are marginal, and tires that are poor. And you'd be surprised how long it takes you to stop a car on worn tires.
Sure, probably double the time.
Yeah,
probably.
double the time.
Yeah.
Double the time.
So, Gary, do most people you find that live here permanently and not traveling up north or out west, do they use the basic all-season tires?
No, there's all kinds of different tires that you can purchase. Lexus recommends that you put OEM tires on the car, and we've talked about this. They're original equipment manufacturer tires, and then there's another tire called OEA, which is original equipment alternative. You don't really need all-season tires down here because you don't drive an all-season, different seasonal stuff. So
it's just hotter.
It's just hotter. Exactly.
Yeah.
So we put tires on there that are best for your car, for handling, wear, performance, safety, and things like that. So we have actual tire experts in our store that can walk you through any of your needs as far as tires are concerned.
Yes. Interesting. What else do you feel that should be done for summer driving?
Well, always brakes. Always check your brakes. When we do brake inspections and stuff like that, we just sell a brake service. We lubricate the sliding pins for the calipers, make sure that the calipers are working properly. So when you step on a brake and you need it, it's there for you. Fluids are also very important. Make sure that they're topped off. They're not degraded, especially your brake fluid. Lexus recommends you change the brake fluid out in your car every 30,000 miles because it absorbs moisture. Brake fluid absorbs moisture, so you don't want moisture in your brake fluid. So we change that out regularly or if needed.
On the newer models, Gary, the cooling systems. Let's talk about that for a minute. What type of maintenance you need on that?
The newer models, their cooling systems are 100,000 miles. They call them lifetime, but lifetime for a car back when we were growing up was 100,000 miles. You get 100,000 miles out of your car, and you go, okay, that
You need a
car's
new car.
done. Exactly.
Yeah.
Back then.
With Lexus cars, we have guests that come in our dealership all the time that have 200,000-300,000 miles in their car. A couple of them in particular are pushing 400,000. But they're in there every 5,000 miles.
But as a general rule, there's no service required.
There's no service required on your coolant system and or your transmission fluid because they have the world speed transmissions in their cars nowadays, and it's a sealed unit. You can't even check the transmission fluid in the car. So, and transmission failures in these Toyota products are rare, very rare. I've been working with Lexus for 16 years, and I can count on one hand how many transmission failures.
Well, that's huge peace of mind because it's that if you have a transmission problem, you've got a big ticket item
You got
there
a
to
big
fix.
bill. Yeah, transmissions are bulletproof in these Toyota products.
I think the best part of all the things that you're talking about, Gary, is that complimentary, both our stores do that multi-point inspection
Yes.
to look at all these items for free to make sure that, God forbid, you don't have a problem.
And we start that complimentary inspection process early on in the life of the car, so we can teach our clients that, look, this is the way that we grade things. It's red, it's yellow, or it's green. If it's green, you're good. If it's yellow, it's going to require attention further on down the road, and the consultants in the lane, they'll talk to you about that. And then if it's red, it needs immediate attention. So we start that process out early in the life of the car, and then customers come to expect that the multi-point vehicle inspection sheet is with their invoice every time they come in.
Now, what if I don't drive a Toyota or a Lexus? Can I still bring my car in for service?
You can. We can't do warranty repairs on other manufacturers. We can't even do warranty repairs on Toyotas, but we can work on them. So that's not a problem.
It's really quite interesting, and to further the answer on that as well is that we sell all makes and models at both stores. So, for example, we all know that there's an awful lot of recalls out there right now, but some of them are not life-threatening type repairs. It could be a piece of trim or something of that nature,
Trunk latch.
or a trunk latch, or they're minor things that along the way we find out, not so much really with our cars or the Toyota for that matter, but sometimes on occasion with secondary brands, when we appraise those cars and we put them in our system, it alerts us if there are any recalls on those cars as well. So for example, let's say if we took in a non-Lexus or Toyota product, but it's an extremely low mileage car with a clean Carfax and it's desirable, but it has a recall, we're going to bring it down to the appropriate dealership and have that corrected. We will not sell a car with any kind of a recall notice on it. It's just not the right thing to do.
So people aren't having the repair done because it's just it's not bothering them, or
yeah, boy, I'll tell you.
That's a great statement.
I mean, of course, I have a non-Lexus, non-Toyota product right now with a recall with that driver's side. I mean, the passenger side airbag. I'm not worried about it.
Do they have parts for the car though?
I don't know. I haven't checked.
I have teenagers in several different models of cars in my family, and I get recall notices on those products as well. And it doesn't, for me being in the fixed operations end of the business and stuff, you'd think it would be an urgency on my part to get those things done. But I get them done eventually, but it's not like, okay, stop what you're doing and let's get this car to the dealership and get it done.
Yeah, I'm the person who usually trades it in before.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't take it seriously.
They don't.
And we take it extremely seriously.
Well, if they told me it's going to fall apart on the highway, I'd have it done right away.
Yeah.
I'll give you a perfect example of that. So I have an older Corvette, and
A gorgeous
it's been
Corvette.
it's been out of warranty for a long, long time. And I was aware of a recall on the roof panel. Supposedly, certain roof panels on particular years have a tendency over time, because of the heat
The
and
shell
wind,
would
the
separate.
shell would separate. So what that means is, if you're driving, the top part of the roof panel can separate and fly off the car. So, you always think, well, it's not going to happen.
Instant convertible?
And what troubled me about it was that in order to make the correction, you had to paint the roof panel. So being that I've had this car for a bunch of years now, and I hope to have it for many more years and keep it until it really is a classic. And I've never had a car that I could put that 25-year antique license plate on.
You're getting close to this.
This
one.
is the one that I wanted.
This is the one?
And I want this car forever. So what was interesting was I did some homework, and they did have to paint it. So I figured, I really don't drive it very much, so I'm not really going to be that concerned about it. And I just put it on the back burner, and I really forgot about it. Well, about 3 years ago,
Yeah, it was about 3 years ago.
driving down south, and all of a sudden I hear a terrible wind buffeting noise, and my car felt like it was kind of shaking, and it created like this vacuum feel in the car. And I didn't really, I thought there was something like majorly wrong with the car, and then I realized, oh my God, I hope it's not the roof. So I pulled over, and it took me just a couple minutes to take the roof panel off, and I put it on in the back, and proceeded to continue driving. And it obviously was the panel, and it was funny because when I got the car home, I was inspecting the panel, and I saw that where it began to separate.
Wow.
So I was not able to drive the
Did
car
you
with
feel
the
a
panel.
little ill?
Well,
I know I would.
I felt extremely appreciative and grateful that it didn't blow off and, God forbid, cause a horrendous accident. So as far as that was concerned, I felt very, very appreciative that we didn't have an issue there. But I was really bummed out about getting the car painted because
Right.
we all know that in collector-type cars, that as soon as you have paintwork on it, it diminishes the value. Really, on any car, it does. Okay, that's why Carfaxes are so important for people to when they're coming in to look at a pre-owned car. You really should be asking for it. We provide it to show people because we're not interested in selling cars with bad Carfax. But they're very descriptive Carfax, where they even can show you, a small little ding or something like
Right,
that.
where you can go, oh, well, that was really nothing. It's been repaired.
And they're
this-
starting to put some words in to take the fear out of it if there was a mark or something. And, on occasion, sometimes someone opens a door, they chip the car, and you're going to have to paint it. But regardless, we like to be able to share that with our clients. They have a right to know that. But I will tell you, the repair was done, and I could never tell the difference in the paint, thank God. And it was like a whole new car because it really was impacting the ride of the car. It just wasn't that bad until it got really bad is when I noticed it. But I will tell you, for anybody who has that kind of a recall or any kind of a notice for a recall, you really need to get that car into the respective dealership and get that repair done. You don't want to cause an accident. And obviously, you don't want to get hurt with anybody in your car. So there's a reason why there are recalls. There's a reason why they're on government websites. And there's a reason why manufacturers are held accountable to make sure that, for safety. So we take it extremely serious. It's just like when people come in, and I hear this every once in a while from Gary, and they'll come in and we inspect the car, and they got a bald tire with a cord sticking out, and the brakes are down to the metal, and we don't want the person to drive out of the. It's not like we're trying to sell them the brake job
Right.
of the tire. That's not what it is.
We don't need their business that bad.
Right. We don't sit there and we're not preying on people to do service work, and we genuinely feel bad when someone says, "No, I'm going to wait," or "I'm going to bring it to my guy," or whatever.
Yeah, just do the recall.
And it just doesn't make sense because people should not be driving something like that. With the cord sticking out of the tire, you're playing Russian roulette with your car, and you're driving at 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. And that
Yeah,
tire,
but
I
you
was
should.
driving home.
You could also involve someone else.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
the bad part.
Yeah.
And you never know when it's going to happen. I was driving home yesterday, as a matter of fact, driving down Midway, which incidentally is really coming along nicely. Okay, very impressed. It's really at certain points where they put in the new landscaping and the dividers and everything. It's
I've been
beautiful.
avoiding the area.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I'm on it every day, and it's
Yeah.
very, very heavy
Yeah,
traffic.
that would be your
Yeah.
exit.
But, well, the key is in the morning you got to get there before 7:30 on Midway. If you're there before 7:30 in the morning, it's clear sailing. But anything after that, you're going to wait, and you're going to have time to really inspect what's going on. And they're doing a great job. We're very excited about it because it's basically opening up that whole area for us. But I took Midway Road and got onto 95, and I was probably driving for about 6 or 7 minutes down 95, and there was a relatively new car on the left lane, and all of a sudden I saw smoke come out of the back tire, and the tire blew. This was a pretty, it's a pretty new car, and there was a woman driving the car, and she pulled right over, and everybody was honking because the car was slowing up in the left lane. They didn't realize that the tire blew off
Yeah,
the car.
yeah.
But anyway, when if it could happen by chance on a brand new car by going over something in the road.
Right.
So when someone
And
is
95.
right.
Well, people
So-
don't realize that
Yeah.
they've run something over. It's
Yep.
it's
You pick up all kinds of junk on 95.
But you know what's interesting?
Tons of
If you're driving a car that has run flat tires, you can drive sometimes up to 100 miles with a flat tire, and you just feel the steering is just a little bit sluggish.
you
but
get a
but the-
tire pressure light.
yeah, but it's drivable. But most cars today do not have run flat tires, so you obviously can't drive on it. But this was a relatively new car, so when you come into a shop and we tell you, look, the cords are sticking out of it, you shouldn't be driving this. You need to get a set of tires on it. And we sell tires at all different price points that are recommended
Right,
by
we
the
do.
manufacturer.
Right.
So we have a good, better, best approach, because let's say someone has another 3 or 4 months left on a lease. They don't want to put the absolute
Right.
best tire made and pay all that money for the tires, where they can put, an acceptable tire by the manufacturer for significantly less money, and then the car's going to go back to the lease company. So we carry the gamut for all different things.
Right. And you have
Gary.
to be careful about the tires that you buy as well. We will not put a tire on your car that doesn't belong on there.
Sure.
And some places will do that.
Oversized tires and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk airbags now.
Recalls, airbag recalls. Okay. We have a few minutes left, so I can get into that. The IS 250, model year 2006 through 2012, we have parts for that. And we're replacing airbags like crazy on those models. The ES models, 2007, 8, and 9, we have parts for those, and we're putting a lot of those parts in the car. The airbag for the later model automobiles, some are coming out in June, and the others are coming out in September. So the GX, the 2010 GX will be out in June. The ES, the 2010 through 12 will be out in June. And then the rest of the automobiles, the IS 250C, that airbag's not scheduled to come out until September.
That's the IS convertible.
Yes, the IS convertible car. So, and that recall is very, very important, especially if you have someone in the passenger seat of your car. If the parts are not available, if you're driving an automobile that we don't have parts for, Lexus will put you in alternative transportation. And
That's
they'll pay
amazing.
for it. Yeah, it's kind of amazing. I've had several instances where we have, some of our snowbird clients, their recalls are divided up into 3 zones: Zone A, Zone B, and Zone C. If the car was purchased in the state of Florida or registered at some point in time during its life in the state of Florida, or any area that is a Zone A area, your car is designated a Zone A car. So, for example, we have a client who purchased the car down here, is a snowbird, lives in New York. So his car is subject to a Zone A recall. Well, we can't get parts for his automobile. Now, this is what Lexus did for this guy. They gave him several options to do. They said, okay, you can either fly home and we'll transport your car up there for you, or you can put your car on a train and we'll send that car up there to wherever you want it to pick it up. They're just doing incredible things to try to help people get through this. It's heartburn for these clients that are driving these cars, because it just hit Lexus and a lot of other manufacturers. It knocked them for a loop.
But what I will say, we both have very extensive experience with Lexus. I'm going on now 15 years, and it truly is, and this is my opinion, obviously, and I'm not going to say just because I work with Lexus and work at Treasure Coast Lexus, but just from so many clients and the things that I say, a lot of the dinner parties I go to where people don't know that I'm in the car business, and I listen to their stories. There's always a topic about cars. Wherever you go, you're going to talk about it. And it's just so interesting for me to sit and hear what people really do have to say about the Lexus brand. And they are so concerned with the safety, with the extraordinary type world-class experience that they've come the clients have come to expect, and Lexus provides that. It's all about the culture of the dealership, and it's really amazing over the years what this company corporately will do to make sure that a client is 100% satisfied. Now, we know that sometimes people can be a little bit unreasonable. Some of the older cars that come in and they have an airbag recall, and the car is 10 years old. Customers
That's
are
time
asking,
for a new one.
Yeah.
well, yes. So that's one of the byproducts of a recall, where people do want to upgrade because of the technology. But a lot of times people think, well, they're putting a new dash, but look how this part wore after 10 years and 240,000 miles. So sometimes there's an unreasonable expectation by people that, just because the airbag, well, the airbag is a safety recall. It's not a wear and tear item.
Right.
So, it's interesting sometimes, a button on a dashboard.
Yeah, it's one of those things you don't want to use.
You do not ever want to use the airbag.
No.
And I can tell you, I was involved in an accident years ago where the airbags blew so quickly, I didn't. It was within a millisecond, and I thought I was done, and it was really quite a. I didn't know what to expect, and it happened so fast. I didn't have time.
Well,
to
it is
prepare
like a
for it.
little mini explosion in your car,
It
correct?
is.
Yeah.
It is. It's
yeah.
ammonium nitrate. You know, it's called phase stabilized ammonium nitrate, but it's designed for a miniature explosion to extract that airbag out of that module,
And quickly.
and very quickly.
So,
very quickly.
so what I would recommend to our listeners that if you have a question of whether or not your car is covered, now I know that Lexus always goes ahead and they send out notification, but sometimes they don't have updated records because people or motor vehicle departments don't work hand in hand, and sometimes they don't have a record. But please call us, call into our dealership. Let us run the VIN, the 17-digit vehicle identification number, and that way we can confirm whether or not it is covered under that recall, and we can give you advice from different options exactly what to do.
Right, exactly.
Gary has made so many new friends because of the recall. You know, it's funny because it's people don't want to come in for the recall. They're upset with the recall, but when they do come in and we sit down and we talk about it and explain it, it's amazing the level of relationships that you're able to build because of it.
Yeah, well, you
So-
get to revisit every customer
You do.
again,
Exactly.
don't
You
you?
do.
Yeah.
So really,
Because everybody
you know,
has a similar
and
issue.
I'll tell you, you hear great stories from people driving 8, 10, 12-year-old cars
Yeah, we do.
that come in with hundreds of thousands of miles on it that they just swear by it. And so many of them, I would never trade this car. And it's funny because, you know, they hand it down to the kids when they start in college and what have you. So it's pretty interesting. Gary, I'm just going to, because we're almost out of time, just a couple
Yeah, I
of
see
highlights.
some really interesting numbers on that page.
Yes. Well,
I
I'm
see
gonna show you a
5.0.
picture. Okay.
I already love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should come by the showroom. We've got two of them.
Oh, I think it's
We
out of
actually-
my price range though.
Well, we have two of these cars that just arrived.
Wow.
Okay. One is the gasoline version,
Mm-hmm.
471 horsepower. It's 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds. When you push the button and hear the exhaust note, you know you're in something extremely special.
Well, it's a
and
5-liter. I
very
know what that
fast.
sounds like.
Exactly. Now, the interesting thing about this car, I mean, we could talk about this car for hours,
Mm-hmm.
but it also comes in a hybrid version. So people would say, well, why would Lexus
I'm thinking-
build a high-performance hybrid car? Well, I'm going to tell you why.
Well, that sounds like having your cake and eating it too.
Well, the V8, the 471 horsepower V8, is 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds. The hybrid model is 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds. Now, the hybrid version gets 35 miles to gallon on the highway. It gets 30 miles to the gallon combined, and 26 in the city. And this is a car that is completely different than any other kind of hybrid ever built for any manufacturer. And what makes it different is a multi-stage transmission where it has shift paddles, and they're made out of magnesium, where you can drive the hybrid and you can use the shift paddles going through the gears.
10-speed.
And anybody who's ever driven a hybrid knows that they're variable transmissions where you just keep going and you don't feel
They're
shift
called
points.
CRTs.
Okay.
Right. So
Well,
this
you want to
is-
shift a sports car.
Well, that's the whole point.
Okay.
So that Lexus knew this, and what a bold and daring design, product design, to have a car that's 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds. That's a hybrid, clean air, and gets an average of 30 miles to the gallon and 35 miles to the gallon on
And
the
that
highway.
And
car
it's
is
beautiful coming and going.
man.
It really
It
is.
beyond beautiful.
It looks like it's going 200 miles an hour when it's sitting still.
Some of the standard equipment on this car, just to give a little.
We are really running out of time. Quick, quick, quick.
Okay, I'm not going to be able to go that fast.
Okay.
What I will say
Talk about
is,
next week.
Treasure Coast Lexus is located on US 1 in the city of Fort Pierce, just south of Midway Road, where the construction is. We have no construction by us, so it's a hop, skip, and a jump from anywhere on the Treasure Coast.
So stop in and see
You
it.
must come and see this new LC. It's going 200 miles an hour standing still.
We are out of time.
Well, then go visit Treasure Coast Toyota of Stuart, down in Stuart on US 1.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, WSTU Stuart.